Good morning, everybody. I'm going to do something a little different today. I thought I would do, at first I wanted to do like, my 15 favorite albums or whatever, 20 favorite albums. I've seen a lot of people do that, and you know what? I have my favorites. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized, no, it's going to have to be 30. It'll have to be 40. Well, forget 40. I'm going to have to do 50. So I'm not even going to try that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through kind of where I started with music when I was a kid and how it affected me and what albums along the way affected me and where it all kind of started. And I'm just winging it here, folks. So bear with me. I don't guarantee this is even going to be posted because I don't know how this is going to come out. I remember music the first time when I was about 5 years old. My aunt took me to a movie, and there was music in the movie. I won't bother explaining the movie, but there was music. And as a 5-year-old, it stuck with me, the song in that movie. And years later, I just knew that it had percolated in my head. Fast forward to, probably mid-'60s. It was still like teeny bop stuff on the radio. Nothing really was that impressive. Elvis was popular. There was like Fabian, if anybody out there knows who Fabian was. He was like the guy singers singing to the girls, the Bobby Rydells and those kind of a guys. And that was pretty much what it was, and that was popular. Then all of a sudden the Beatles show up. The Beatles showed up in 64. So I guess the Bobby Rydells and stuff was even earlier than that. Though there was some cool stuff on. There was like Motown and stuff that we listened to. But the Beatles changed everything, obviously. I mean, you hear that all the time when the Beatles showed up. It just changed, and it did. They were wholly different. They had an accent. They were dressed weird. They had long hair. They didn't dress weird, but it was just they had this, the way they dressed. And their music was different. So that happened. So everybody was affected by the Beatles, and all the bands, and they'll admit it, that any band that was trying to make it, they all wanted to be the Beatles. They were like, geez, if we could just be the Beatles, we would get somewhere. So now it's about 1966, 67, 68, the late 60s, and as far as albums go, the first album I can remember, I think it was the first album I owned, was a gift. Someone gave me Jefferson Airplane Takeoff, and this is pre-Grace Slick. I don't recall the singer's name, but it was before Grace Slick. And I really liked that album. I don't have it anymore, unfortunately. But I started hearing things that I would never have heard because I worked at a summer camp. And there was a lot of people out there that were freer than I was at the time to explore music. So I learned things like The Doors. Led Zeppelin had just released their albums. Led Zeppelin 2 was my first exposure to Led Zeppelin. Of course, Hendrix. The first... I don't know that I even heard any albums of Hendrix yet. Yeah, I did. I heard... Are You Experienced? Somebody gave me that album because they didn't like it. But I don't remember listening to it much. A little bit I did. But I saw the Monterey Pop, and that's what got me really into Hendrix. Watching him perform, that was just like, that just blew me away. It was, it was something you never had seen before. Like most of the stuff that was going on, it was all just so new. Not only to me because I was young, but to a lot of people. It's like, what is going on in this in these 60s? What are these people on? So after that, moving along, 1969, what went on then? Okay, Woodstock happened. So then suddenly I was into all that stuff. And the art teachers in high school would let you bring in music. So I didn't bring in anything, but there were other people that brought in albums. And the couple that I remember the most was Crosby, Stills and Nash. Never heard them before. And what impressed me, oddly enough, about that album, and it was Crosby, Stills and Nash, was it Deja Vu? It wasn't Deja Vu. What's the first album? Their first album? Anyway, I remember the bass. Why? the bass really stood out to me on Crosby, Stills, and Nash. There was also the band, music from Big Pink. Just stuff that was like so different to me, and it really stuck in my head. All right, now, and there was other things, but those things I remember the most. 1970, 69, 70. Okay, I graduated high school in 71, and I was listening to things. You know, there's Hendrix, The Doors, The Beatles, Jethro Tull. I got as a birthday present. So I joined the Navy in 1971. And of course, there's a whole bunch of guys that are from all over the country, and I'm being exposed to things that they like. And there was one guy on the ship who turned me on to a whole lot of different bands. The ones I remember are Wishbone Ash, ZZ Top, Lynyrd Skynyrd, probably Robin Trower, and others, I think. And that's just, all that stuff just sent me off into a direction of that kind of music. So there I was on the ship for 4 years. And there was a few people, we were really into music, so we went to a bunch of concerts, as many concerts as we could. Saw Montrose a ton of times. Saw ZZ Top. Real popular band with us at the time was Foghat, Bad Company. Those kind of things. Let's see, did Sammy Hagar, I think I might have left Montrose and put out his own album at the time, I think. And there's other bands that were kind of going around at the time that I was listening to a lot. Now I'm out of the Navy in 1975, and there are some bands that I didn't listen to. But I don't think they released anything yet, or I wasn't aware of them just yet. It was people like Aerosmith, Blue Oyster Cult. I was heavily into these people. Oh yeah, Alice Cooper. I was into Alice Cooper a lot. Oh, and Uriah Heep. See, I knew this was going to happen. I'm going to start thinking of people later on. But yeah, Uriah Heep, listened to them a lot. Queen. There you go. There's another one. I discovered Queen while I was in the Navy. Some guy had bought what's that album I was thinking of it a minute ago? The Sheer Heart Attack. And he he didn't like it. He said, "Hey, Craigo, I know you like weird stuff. Here, you can have this." So there I was. That's where my Queen journey started. But I really only listened, like their first 3 albums, which goes for a lot of bands when I think about it. Like their first 3 or 4 albums. And then after that, I just lose it because I think they just don't impress me anymore. Not that they got to impress me, but you know, if I'm not into it, I'm not into it. All right, where we are. We are out of the Navy now. 75. There's Aerosmith and those kind of things. I started getting into like jazz. Some bands, I look back at it now, and it's like, why did I really like it? It was like Yellow Jackets and bands like Yellow Jackets. I can't remember, but yeah, that kind of jazz sort of stuff. I'm already thinking of things that I should have already mentioned. But Zappa, I got into Zappa around 1976, 77. I went to see him in 77 in the Palladium in New York, his Halloween concerts he had every year. Whom else? Oh, Lord, I discovered like Pat Travers, Frank Marino, and Mahogany Rush. That kind of a thing. Who else? This is after the Navy. Bebop Deluxe, live at the Bebop Deluxe, what was it? Live in the Air Age. Great live album. Of course, The Who. I'd known about The Who and that kind of a thing. So now we're moving along, and I'm forgetting just a ton of people. Let's see, 72, 77, 78. So around 1979, I moved down from New York to Louisiana. Some Navy friend down there, a couple of Navy friends. So we started getting into things down there and listening to things. And a band I discovered down there was City Boy. City Boy are sometimes compared to 10cc. If you like 10cc, you probably might like City Boy. Their lyrics are a little, not smart alecky, but clever. But great music, good guitarist, fantastic band that never gets a mention anywhere. Whom else did I listen to down in Oh, we did go to a bunch of concerts while I was down there. Who did we see? I'm trying to move along here so I'm not like babbling. Oh Lord, who did I listen to? I listened to a lot of things like, now this is pre down there, is like Return to Forever. I started getting into that real heavy duty prog jazz kind of a thing, and other people like that. I never did like Genesis or King Crimson, that kind of a stuff. That never did anything for me. Yeah, it had to be a little bit more rocky. And of course, Yes. I didn't mention Yes, but okay, let's not forget Yes. Never saw them live, though. Who did I see? I saw Skynyrd live, saw Queen live. As a matter of fact, when I went to see Queen, Thin Lizzy opened for Queen. Those were the days when you could go get a ticket for $7.50 and see two great bands. All right, now we are back in down south, living down south. A band that I knew of, but I never listened to them, unfortunately. It was Gentle Giant. A friend of mine had, we all had our little baskets full of records, and we'd dig through each other's albums to see what we wanted. And I remember always seeing Gentle Giant, but I never listened to them, didn't know anything about them. I don't just skip over them because I guess I was looking for other things. I was heavily into Zappa and that kind of a thing at that time. And Dixie Dregs. Who am I thinking of? They're kind of a southern type band. I can't think of their name. I'll put it here. I can't think. Sea Level. Sea Level. That's who it was. Sea Level. Listening to that kind of a thing down there. Discovered Dred Zeppelin. That kind of a thing. I've played a lot of these people on YouTube's here, so if any of this stuff perks your interest, search it out. I probably had made a video of them. I'm sure I must have. Todd Rundgren, all these names that come to mind. And Todd Rundgren is it was his live album, Utopia Live something, and there's Another Live, I think it's called, that kind of a stuff. That's the Todd Rundgren I really liked. It was that sort of a thing. His other stuff was okay, but he kind of tends to be a little poppy. Even when the Tubes, all right, there's another one, a live album, the Tubes live. What do you want from live? Great album. Oh my God, the Tubes. They must have been so bizarre to go see a Tubes concert. See, I know I'm gonna miss just forget a ton of people. I'm almost, my brain is like a lot of them are back there just percolating, but they're not. It's not letting them loose. Geez, now 70s, 80s, the 80s, all down in the South, and then I moved back to New York, and everything pretty much was the same musically. I was listening to pretty much all that kind of a stuff. I discovered a thing or two here and there, but the one band in the mid 90s that I discovered that really did it for me, and I don't listen to anything even nowadays. There's nothing that I've discovered that really makes me want to sit down and listen to them. Nothing. There's a lot of cool stuff that I've been discovering since I've been making these videos and had this channel. A lot of cool stuff from around the world. I do like a lot of the stuff, but nothing really grabs me enough to make me want to sit down and really listen to it. But the one band that did that for me was Porcupine Tree. Holy crap. Here's the story. I was just looking for something new. CDs were still around. So I just went on Amazon. I was like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I picked out 3 CDs. It was 2 of them that I can't even remember their names now. You would know them if I mentioned them. Like Spock's Beard was one, and another one, I can't remember the name of the other one. And it was Porcupine Tree, in absentia. Didn't know any of them. Yeah, Spock's Beard, same old stuff. It was like trying to sound like Yes, more or less. The other band, same thing, same old prog sound. I thought, But I listened to Porcupine Tree. That was so different, so different. So as soon as I heard that album, I had to check out all of their earlier stuff. And yeah, I just can't say enough good things about Porcupine Tree. Holy crap. I listen to bands now, and I'm constantly being, oh, that sounds like Porcupine Tree. Oh, that sounds like Porcupine Tree. So a lot of people have been affected by, influenced, infected. Infected sounds bad. I'm infected. Influenced by Porcupine Tree. and rightly so. They were very unique. Haven't really been crazy about Steven Wilson's solo stuff. I guess some of it's okay, but more the band. Give me the band. You know, the early on stuff. Yeah, the early stuff I really like. Stupid Dream and all that kind of a thing. Some of it was a little weird. The real early stuff was very strange. But, you know, there it was. He was experimenting, you know, in his home studio. And pretty much after that, I haven't really discovered anybody that new, except for here. And again, like I say, I don't really care enough about it to really want to sit down and listen to it. There's some cool stuff. Absolutely some neat stuff that I've discovered from around the world. And, you know, I like it, but nothing makes me want to sit down. And it might be an age thing, you know, that could be, you know. And when me and everybody else who grew up during listening to albums, you had to commit. You know, you bought an album and you didn't have it. Now I got so much music, I'll never listen. I won't live long enough to listen to all the music I have on my computer now. It won't happen. A lot of it will be never listened to. But in those days, you went out and you bought an album or two, possibly three, you know. But it was usually just one or two. And you sit down, you put it on one side, you listen to the whole side, you flip it over, you listen to the other side. You kind of commit to it. And that's how we kind of... So now there are albums I listen to, you know, from those days, and you know what song's coming up next. I don't now. You know, when I listen to something, it's on shuffle play, and I have no idea what song came before or comes after, which is kind of a shame. Though I'm happy with not having to fool around with records. I'm not one of these audiophiles that no albums and vinyl that's the way to go. Yeah, it all sounds pretty good to me. Good enough for my ears. So that's where I stand. So I hope this wasn't too boring, and there's more to it. I mean, I'm trying to move along as quick as possible to not make it too boring. There are so many bands along the way that I've listened to, and I know I've forgotten a few, more than a few. But that's it. I hope it was somewhat entertaining, and maybe we'll do it again sometime. But maybe I'll try to be a little more organized. Now, I will make a list of some of the top albums. That's going to be a tough one now to make a list of. It'll be a lot. There's no way I can make 10 or 15 or 20, 30, 40 even. There are just too many albums that. And I like the obscure. When I say obscure, I mean in the general public who listens to music, your radio listeners who, you know, they're happy to hear whatever's on the radio. It would be obscure to them, but it wouldn't be obscure to a guy like me who's grown up listening to things. Like, oh, yeah, I know about old so-and-so. Listening to them for years. Oh, okay, well. So that's it. I guess I'm going to end it here. And, you know, hopefully you were entertained somewhat. That's where we're going to end it. That's where... end it with a stumble there, Johnny boy. That's where we are going to end it. Later, folks.